Okay, I don't see a SR up there yet, but
We'll get it started.
yeah, we can get this started. Okay, welcome everybody to the regular CCWD board meeting of Wednesday, July 26th. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Rebecca, could you please call the roll?
Director Underhill,
Here.
Director Davidson,
Here.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
and Director Cicada is absent. Director Radaman should be in shortly.
Okay. At this time, let's go to item 2, public comment. For public comment, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. Public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration, and no action can be taken on matters not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody online who wishes to bring something forward?
Two different meetings, which I don't understand. Go ahead.
Are they requesting to speak of?
Well, it's Matt Weber, probably Scott.
Maybe send them, make sure they have the correct
I
link.
will. Yeah.
And if there are other people in that other meeting, we should let them know.
Okay.
Okay. We have one item on the consent agenda today. This is a report on the monthly investment transactions for June 2023.
For acceptance.
Okay, I wasn't finished reading it, but
Anticipate.
are you
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded for approval. Call the roll on that one.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Maybe we should take it.
Yeah, we're going to take a break right here to see if we can figure out the technical challenges.
Folks, we haven't, it's actually kind of nice to pause and think about how, remember in 2019, how many times we had issues like this, and we haven't had any of these issues in years now, it seems like, so. That was a nice reminder.
Scott.
A nice reminder of how seamless it's been.
Thanks, Michael. Hey,
So, President Radaman, we've already gone through the consent agenda, and then we took a recess at that point when we realized there was a technical issue.
okay, have you read, or is anyone, Vice President Thomas, have you read the statement about me being about AB 2449? Okay.
No.
Let me just make a statement real quick. I'm attending this meeting under the provision of AB 2449, which is a 2023 revision to the Brown Act, under the attending remotely under Just Cause while traveling on official business. I'm actually in the Aqua JPIA office in Roseville. And Director Thomas, could you continue running the meeting, and I will attend remotely here. Please proceed. Thanks.
All right.
Excuse me.
Yes, I heard you.
Oh,
It's been brought to my attention that there are a couple of people here that arrived a little late, and I think that had they been here earlier, they would have liked to come to the microphone to make a public comment. So please come forward, tell us who you are and where you live.
Thank you very much, Director Underhill and board members. My name is Tyler Childress. I am a member of a group of people that are trying to restore the Stanislaus River between Camp 9 and the Highway 49 bridge, the Stephen O. Bridge. And I realize that's a big project that we're undertaking, but I had just a few questions to ask, and I'll try to keep them brief. let's see.
We won't be able to answer any questions directly.
Yeah, just,
I-
you know, so
I
it's
understand.
not an
Yeah.
agendized item, so the board can't provide responses to
All right.
questions.
Well, maybe
I can work with you to make sure we get it agendized, or we make sure you get the responses.
That's great. Maybe you could take them under advisement and I could
Sure.
schedule a
We
meeting.
can get you answers down the road.
Great. Let me make sure I find my notes here, which actually they're lost, so I might have to do it from memory here, but don't use up my time. Let's see, I believe I saw on the website, or it might have been at on the YouTube video of your last meeting, that there was an acronym I didn't recognize. CW said prices had doubled from,
CPPA, Public Power Authority.
okay,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, I'm a bit familiar with the North Fork project since its inception. And a couple questions about the original project. As I understand it, there was a trade-off when you decided to, with a new Spicer Dam, to back water up into the Gabbets Meadow area of the Carson Iceberg Wilderness area, that a mitigation measure for that process of backing the water and flooding meadow fawning habitat was to create other meadows, artificial meadows on the side creeks coming into Highland Creek. And number one, I just wondered if those artificial meadows had actually been completed. And then another question I had concerned the rates for power and water. Now, if I understand correctly, the water is taken out of the North Fork at McKay Point Diversion Dam and run in a tunnel under Big Trees Park and comes out at Collierville, where it generates electricity. And I'm wondering about, with the fluctuation between our many dry years with the occasional wet year, what happens to the rates for water and for power that's generated? I understand, is there some fluctuation? And if so, how much fluctuation in rates has there been since the inception of the project that was completed, I guess, by NCP, Northern California Power Agency? So I'm just wondering, what do the drought periods and the high water years do to your rate structure?
Do you, I imagine we're coming up on the 3 minutes already. Do you have a business card or contact info that you can leave with us, and I can reach out to you directly? And
That'd be great. Yeah, I'll leave my information. I don't have a card with me, but
yeah, if you could leave us your contact info, I'll reach out directly.
great.
It wouldn't like you best to write everything down in the email and we can.
Yeah.
give it to the gentleman.
That'd be great. Just to explain, one reason I have the concern about the meadows is that the meadows, of course, slow down the water as it comes down. And as the water percolates into the meadow areas, that reduces the high water flows on the river and slows the process of the filling of New Melones. So,
Just a side note that I think I can share with you. I own some property up in Tuolumne County, and they just did a big meadow restoration up there at I believe it's Highland Creek that is below me that we still go down to, but they've completely taken the road out and destroyed a bunch of big trees and are doing a meadow restoration, pretty substantial one in Sigali Meadow up there. That's all on the Stanislaus up higher.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's probably not related, but they are doing that kind of stuff.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the info. Thanks for your time.
And
Those are good questions. We appreciate it, and we'll reach out directly.
your last name was Childress, is that correct?
CHIDRS.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, well, let's return to item 4, new business. Item 4A, this is a discussion and action regarding resolution of appreciation for the White Pines Park Committee. Are you going to make this report?
Pardon? Yeah.
Are you making the
Yeah,
report,
so
Bertha?
if it's okay, I can do it, but take this one from the podium, if that's okay. And this is one that I'm sorry, I have to have my back to all of you guys. This is one that Director Underhill has championed. She's been reminding me to get this on the agenda for a while now. It's one that is also, near and dear to my heart. I love the White Pines Park. My family spends a lot of time there. It's just such a phenomenal asset for the community. And just so everybody knows who's listening that doesn't know, CCWD owns White Pines Lake, and it's a water supply. It's a water supply asset for us. But we lease the facility, the grounds for the park to the White Pines Park Committee, which is a 100% volunteer organization. And so the improvements that you see out at White Pines that have been done over the years, those are 100%. The credit goes to the White Pines Park Committee, and they've just done a phenomenal job improving those facilities, maintaining them, adding on new features for the community. It's just it's become something much greater than it was when we handed it off to the White Pines Park Committee, and it's only due to the volunteers that make up that group. So I think we're just indebted to them as a community and as a district. So we have a resolution of appreciation to share, and I'll read the resolution, and then we'll take a vote, and then depending on the outcome of the vote, we might want to take a pause for some pictures or something. But this is a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District recognizing the White Pines Park Committee. Whereas in 1990, the Calaveras County Water District entered into a lease agreement with the White Pines Park Committee, and whereas the White Pines Park Committee achieves its mission by developing and maintaining the White Pines Park in excellent condition for residents and visitors to enjoy. The park has become a recreational gym under their stewardship, and whereas the White Pines Park Committee, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, has tirelessly raised funds to cover the costs of operations and to install significant improvements to the park, including large play structure for children and a pickleball court for all ages. And whereas the White Pines Park Committee has grown to include 144 members who donate hundreds of hours every year to maintain and operate the park. And whereas the White Pines Park Committee has hosted and promoted countless community events that encourage residents and visitors to visit and enjoy the beautiful scenery and amenities that White Pines Park has to offer. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District expresses its great appreciation and gratitude for the committee's contributions and dedication to White Pines Park, Calaveras County Water District, and the Calaveras County community. That's the resolution. I suspect I know who might want to make a motion.
I certainly want to make a motion to approve the resolution, and I do it with honor.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just would like a couple of minutes. Is there anyone in this room who has not been to White Pines Park? No. Oh,
The new guy.
How long?
That's the new guy.
Right.
We-
We'll give him a pass, but he'll get there.
You, as I say, I'm talking with great pride because I live up there, as you know, and I've been there since 1988, and I've known White Pines Park, and I've been at events at White Pines Park. I joined the committee, and I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm in an advisory kind of position, but I know and love every one of them. And it's just, you just need to go up and take a look at it again. It is so pristine. They just recently had a car show there. There were 103 cars, and people don't take their cars to some, dive. They want to show it off, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So it is, as I say, with great pride. The committee works hard. They're there. We have a couple of members who are there at what time do you guys go out there to clean the bathrooms? Okay. Every day. Every day they're out there.
Only because we don't have enough volunteers.
Yeah.
If anybody would like to be a volunteer. Sometimes like the president.
If anybody didn't hear that online, there's plenty of room for additional volunteers for the White Pines Park.
Isn't that mandatory for for our new engineering staff?
Yes, that's right. The engineering department's required,
it was,
contributed certain.
Initiation as
Yeah.
opposed to the blood initiation.
But it is beautiful. And as Michael is mentioning, and as we know, it's strictly done on a volunteer basis and looking for more volunteers all the time. And the devotion of these people, the commitment of the committee is just, Barbara Matthews, the current president, wasn't able to be here. She was working, but we do have the incoming president, Jeff, and pronounce your name?
Jeff Janiver.
Yeah.
That's who you don't drive.
Okay. And so I'm so pleased that they were able to come down the hill to receive the resolution. Any comments from you or, I know you don't have any place to put it. You don't have, maybe we can
In front of each meeting.
bring it to every meeting.
Yeah, because we don't have an office.
Mhm.
Put it in our garage.
Put it in the bathroom, everybody's.
Yeah. I haven't been, I've only lived up here going on 6 years now. I got involved with White Pines in the second year I was here. And I just happened to be fishing one day and Jenny and Bill, who used to be involved, were complaining they didn't have enough volunteers. I thought, I can help you do some graphs and stuff, and the next thing you know, the hook's in. And, here. But it is a beautiful place. Dave's been involved a long time, and Bert has been involved a long time. But it's such a beautiful place, and it's hard to, once you get involved, it's hard to ignore. You meet a lot of nice people, and we do clean some bathrooms and stuff, but I feel my job's also to make sure the fish get exercise and do that, and throw a line, and just a lot of good things up there that happen. It's just a really beautiful place. And I think I look back on the people who started it and got it going, had a vision as well as you guys did. I'm impressed with that. So I think it's a great place. We just put cornhole in.
Oh, okay.
So that's the big thing now, so. I got a cornhole for that place.
Nice.
They're concrete, 675 pounds per board, so.
Fantastic.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Director Radaman.
Yes, I did want to also comment on White Pines Lake, how beautiful it is. This is a gem of our community. I've actually had the opportunity to go there since I was a kid. My mom took us there during the summer months in the 70s. And it's been an awesome place to hang out since then. This is a long time coming, and really congratulations to the volunteers. An excellent job, and it's surprising how much each year the place improves. When it could be going the other way, like a lot of other places. This is an awesome gem in our community. That's it.
Would you like to tell these volunteers how you used to skid down the spillway?
That story's been told.
Save that one for closed session, maybe.
Okay. All right. I think it's appropriate that we act on this motion. Could you please poll the board?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Director Radaman.
Yes.
Okay, we have 4 for it and 1 absent. So
Gonna do a quick little photo pop here.
You guys mind coming up here and here's the here's your resolution. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I'm sure it's. You should come in and do it. You're all right.
You guys ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3, cheese. All right, great. All right. Thank you. Appreciate being back here. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for your hard work, gentlemen. Okay, I'd like to move on to item 4B. This is okay, item 4B, this is an update and discussion regarding the proposed water and wastewater rates and the Proposition 218 public hearing. Hello, Jeff.
Good afternoon, Director Thomas and members of the board and Director Radaman online. This item here is just kind of a recap of what we've been doing up to this date. Obviously, your board has been sitting in on all these meetings, but I also wanted to use this as an opportunity to let you know what we're starting to do now that we've moved on to the next phase of this process. The staff report goes into talking about, we started this in October with kind of like a rate study 101 with your board. Habib Isaac and his group has been diligent in informing your board every step along the way and informing the public of where we are within the process, whether it's the financial plan, which really took a lot of time to put together. That's a 5-year financial plan, looking at all our costs, our revenues, and our basis to moving forward. I want to do a big, huge shout out to ops and engineering, because a huge part of this was the CIP component. And we went over that time and time again, making sure that, one, the projects that we included in this process were projects that were needed and immediate, but they didn't overwhelm the rates themselves, because we pushed a number of these projects out into years 6 to 10. If we front loaded everything, the rates increases would be much higher. So they did a lot of work, a lot of diligent work. Michael supervised the whole thing and cracked the whip along the way. But all that work came to fruition at the last meeting when Habib and IB presented their cost of service and rate design. And at that particular point, after numerous questions and discussion, your board provided staff with direction to move ahead with mailing out the Prop 218 notices and setting a hearing for September 13th at 1 o'clock in this boardroom. Those notices were mailed out Monday, and they should be starting to arrive at customers' houses today and tomorrow, depending upon how long the mail comes from I believe it's mailed out of Texas. So there's that process that's ongoing.
Why is that?
We use Data Pros, who does our billing. It's much easier for them to just go ahead and do it because they have all the mailing lists and all the information on all the customers. Then, especially when you're mailing out 13,000 notices. Prop 218 requires a 45-day noticing period. The time between Monday and the September 13th is 50 days. So we exceed that threshold there. Next steps, what do we plan on doing? There's a lot of public outreach that's going to go on, and this is going to be a team effort within this district staff. Michael, Rebecca, Kelly R., who's unfortunately not here, she's out ill, myself and Kelly G. and others are really going to be focused on making sure we take every opportunity to talk to customers, whether it's the public outreach, the town hall meetings that we have scheduled in August, or individual meetings, but we're going to do as much as we can to engage our customers. There is also going to be we're working on additional information that's going to go on our website, including a FAQ that we're developing, and then some models that people can take a look at, and also some comps. We're developing, as your board requested, comp rates for the surrounding agencies, not just first year, but going out as far as their rates, approved rates go. If an agency adopted a 5-year rate plan, just like we're going to be doing, we can compare our rates to theirs all the way through that process. So there's going to be a significant amount of work that's going on behind the scenes to get this up into every information available to everyone. As I mentioned, we're going to have workshops in the middle of August. And then the public hearing again is September 13th, 1 p.m. at this board room. At that particular point in time, we will, everybody has an opportunity to either mail in their protest or deliver it at that particular meeting. We'll make sure we have an open count of all the ballots, all the protest letters coming in. I'm sorry, it's not a ballot, it's a protest letter. If there's a majority protest, then we have to go back to square one. If there's not a majority protest, it is up to your board to adopt a rate plan.
Excuse
And
me, that
yes,
was the majority of both
customers,
sewer and, yeah,
Yeah.
both sewer and water.
right, and they're done individually.
Oh, okay.
Each rate is adopted separately because we have some customers that just water and then some
Right.
sewer, but they're adopted separately. And so there's a protest mechanism for the sewer and the water. And then if the plan is adopted, the rates will go in effect October 16th of this year. That's the beginning of the next billing period. We bill bi-monthly. And the subsequent years, it'll be increases on July 16th. We'll be back to the regular fiscal year schedule. And I'm open for questions, comments, and additional direction your board would like for us to follow.
And so with instructions or with information on this rate increase, we're certainly going to tell them exactly what they need to do if they don't, want to go along.
Correct. And I believe, Director Underhill, going back 5 years, people were wondering about a protest form letter. And I think your comments back at that point was, can we provide them with one? Prop 218 doesn't require it, but we put one on our website. So we will go ahead and do that again and make that available.
Is there, it seems there's, in the past, that if people made their own up and it was technically wrong, it wouldn't count. Is that the case?
Correct.
Are there, do we spell out I agree that we should be providing a legal document for them, but we should maybe make it clear that if they decide to do their own document, that they need to follow the rules. And the rules should be clearly stated so they don't think that we tried to undermine the process.
Certainly. And I don't have it in front of me, but the Prop 218 notice identifies 3 steps.
You don't have the Prop 218 notice that's being mailed?
Yeah, it's
Already?
right here, and we handed it out to the director, and it does include that information where it says specifically what's required. And it's a description of the property, could be a parcel number or a street address, a statement that the letter constitutes a protest, and that the protest must be signed and dated by the property owner. Those are basically the requirements, but we lay that out on the last page of the Prop 218 notice. And so that can come on the back of the napkin, or, in any form that the property owner wants to submit it. But we also provide a form that meets that criteria.
Where's the form?
It will be online.
Yeah, that wasn't included in this notice, but it will be available.
And Director Davidson, you're correct. They have the instructions. Most of the protest letters we've received over the past years have been in their own handwriting, and they follow these guidelines and they just mail it into us. But to make things a little easier for some people, we did create a form that they could use that requests all this information, and they can mail that in as well.
We'll include that in all of our, our
okay.
community meetings.
I don't know what the percentage of tenants is in the county, but it's got to be in the double digits probably. Have we, this has already been sent out. But do we make it clear anywhere that if you're a tenant, you need to get your property, your landlord to file it? And then how many, say I'm curious, if a landlord has 10 properties, does he get 10 votes?
For one vote for each property, and the notice does explain that it has to be the property owner that signs the protest.
Okay.
And the form is on our website.
It will be on our website.
Will be on our website. Remember, let's go back to the fact that not everyone has access to the internet, or
Right.
Sure.
how are we going to handle that?
Well, again, there's explicit instructions on the back page on what needs to be done to file and submit a protest letter.
And we'll include it in all of our outreach to our community meetings. You know, we'll make sure that everybody's aware of that, and we'll have hard copies of those, that template available there as well.
Because we've got to, they've got to move fast, because it says all protests must be received, not postmarked, by the close of the public hearing on September 13th.
Right.
So that's a month and a half away, right?
We will
48
we will
days.
count the letters at that meeting.
Okay, on this summary paragraph here, the thing that popped off the page to me, that it says it's a recommended practice that the district's rate plan be reviewed. I thought it was part of 218 that it was necessary every 5 years. It's not?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
you can go beyond 5 years without a rate increase. You can't adopt a rate increase that extends beyond 5 years.
Camera off.
Okay.
Or if you're putting them there, you won't be on camera.
So if you could,
I'm
mute
attending
if
a
you're
meeting
on,
at
if you're
Calaveras
online,
County.
Problem.
Director Ratterman, in the meeting now. Hello?
So the, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
5 years.
Yeah, so you can't adopt a rate that goes beyond a 5-year rate schedule.
Okay,
You're not required to adopt one every 5 years.
I have a couple comments.
sure, go ahead.
A couple things I want to see included in our presentation is I want to see the compounded rate of inflation over the last 3 years. And I want somebody to actually do the math on that, because, if it goes up 7% 3 years ago, and then it goes up another 7%, and then another 7%, it's more than 21%,
Mhm.
right? So I want that math to be done, and I want it to be something that we can put up on a slide, just so we can, because really the first year rate increase is just
Oh, yeah.
getting us even with the inflation rate.
Okay.
That everybody has to recognize that we're affected by the steep inflation just in the last handful of years. So I want to have that number. I also want to have the total dollar amount of infrastructure that we've constructed since our last rate increase. I know that's going to be a little bit of a task, but it's also going to be a big number that I think people need to see. Because I want them to understand that we made a commitment when we raised your rates that we were going to put that money in the ground for the infrastructure, and we've fulfilled that. But they're going to need to see it, and it's going to be a big number, and it may take a little time to do that, but I think it's important. And then thirdly, I want to see the total amount of grants that help subsidize our rates that we put into construction development in grants over the last 10 years as well, or even if you just want to use the same time frame since our last rate increase. Because I think people are going to want to see that we're working hard, not just to use their money, but to leverage it however possible to get more done. So those are the three things that I really want to see on an individual slide throughout our presentation, if we can do that.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
In fact, one of them will check off the list in this meeting.
Okay, great.
Okay, Director Ratterman, you have any comments here?
Any more comments?
No, I don't. Sorry for the interruption. I was in a private room here and someone came in. I forgot to turn my microphone off. Sorry for the disruption. No, I don't have, I am looking forward to our town hall meetings, and the points that Director Davidson just pointed out, I think would be helpful to actually present at that meeting, with the grants as well as the amount of money we spent on infrastructure, in addition to the inflation numbers. And that's all I got. Thanks.
I personally would like an emphasis talking to the people who are going to have a hard time paying these rates, you know.
Yeah.
What can we offer them? You know, we know we can't give them anything coming from rates. It's got to be from another source, correct? We can't
Is
use,
that still the case? I mean, isn't there legislation that's being
No, that
discussed?
not that would give us any flexibility when it comes to rates. That's
Well,
there are.
in regards to that, then, why don't we, I mean, whatever law that prohibits us, whatever section of the water code or whatever that is,
218.
That's constitutional.
well, then whatever, paragraph in Prop 218 that, mandates that, I think we need to have that as a slide as well, so people understand. We, you know, our hands are tied by this. And because once again, I mean, I keep saying this, all we're doing is passing the buck for California state legislatures. I mean, you know, we're bound by their laws and we have to comply with them. You know, we don't have a choice on that, man. I mean, it's, you know, we're going to be the ones that they're going to get upset with, but all we are is the tax collector for the state of California. You know, and I just want to make sure that the public understands that it's the state of California that is causing this. It's not actually by this board or by our staff.
It's the state that puts those restrictions on our funding. That's right. And the state and federal government have talked a lot about affordability over the last couple of years. In particular, there were some low-income ratepayer assistance programs that were in place over the last couple of years that we've connected our ratepayers with. Those programs have since lapsed, so they're currently still developing mechanisms to provide assistance to low-income ratepayers. We were just talking about it in our Region 3 board meeting yesterday, how high of a priority it is for all of us agencies that are having to go through this. I expect it to be on the near the top of the water industry legislative advocacy efforts next year.
You know, it just running. I had one other thing that I wanted to have brought forward. I'd like to get a list of, you know, the 10 or, you know, let's start with 10 state laws or rules or recommendations that have caused us to increase our budget. You know, perhaps even just our reporting from the department, or from our water resources department. Some of the, you know, the dam safety fees, our fee structure with the state. If we could get a list of 10 things that have, and, you know, I mean, how many of them have gone up 100%?
Sure.
You know, I'd like to see at least one page based on state laws that have increased our costs.
And we have started pulling that information together.
Okay,
That'll be
great.
part of the outreach. Yeah.
These are all
But it-
very good points.
But to Director Underhill's point, it is absolutely going to impact the low-income ratepayers, you know, much greater. And so,
And commercial rate, commercial
right.
rate.
And so we're, you know, to the extent we can connect those people with resources that can assist as what we know is we're tied, our hands are tied when it comes to the rates. We can't use the rates for that purpose. And we have very limited flexibility as a water district. It's going to become a greater and greater issue in the coming years because of all utility cost increases, not just water and wastewater.
How much have we been able to cut internally? You know, Out of our
Yeah, and that's a
expenses.
difficult question to answer. I mean, we made significant budget cuts between even just the presentation of the preliminary draft budget this year and the final adopted budget this year. We went back and cut as much as we can. So we're running extremely lean as an agency already. But we can, you know, that's another effort that we're looking at right now, is just ways that we've cost saving efforts that we've implemented, and things that we've cut, and ways that, and it's not just cuts, it's, you know, the constant innovation and ingenuity that our staff are employing to make, you know, things last as long as possible, make multiple uses of one tool or whatever it might be. You know, that's just an ongoing effort that our staff, I think, deserve a lot of credit for.
Even our effort with the meters. you know,
Exactly, yeah.
You know, we'll be able to utilize those staff members to do other things.
They already, yeah, they
Because,
already are.
just because of the automation. I mean, we need to have that discussion too.
Right.
Sure. Jeff is quite right to bring up these state mandated, or the state mandates, how they've affected our ability to do our job. But I think that in addition to that, we need to kind of point out some consequences that have occurred in other districts that didn't keep up with their maintenance programs. You know, Tuolumne County lost a big water tank. It could have been devastating, could have been catastrophic. I mean, it did wash out somebody's backyard. Nobody was home. But I mean, that's the one thing that is constantly on my mind is if we were to I don't know, just to say, well, we just can't pass this much along, then what, for me, what is the consequences of that if we have ruptured lines and water running down the street and tanks collapsing? I don't know. I feel like one of the important things that I'm doing here is making sure that that doesn't happen.
Can I, Michael, may I? I know Director Davidson was part of the board when we implemented the 2013 rate increase for the R&R component. And at that time, what we looked at is the option of running to failure versus proactive maintenance. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, Director Thomas.
Exactly.
Is that the cost to run to failure is significantly higher than the proactive maintenance. Because if something fails and you're not prepared for it, generally you're in emergency mode. You are also at the mercy of contractors because you don't have planned work. They're trying to come in and help you out. So things are significantly more expensive at that point. But I think this is a very valid point that we need to include in our presentation and our outreach.
Do we still have any, photographic evidence of the 150-foot guys?
Oh, yes, we do. I remember that oh so very well.
I actually was driving back down from the cabin and I saw people going, I mean, there were boulders like this big that were just flying up in the, right down the middle of the highway. It's crazy.
I think it's a great point, and it is, I think, very compelling. We've had some conversations with folks recently who are concerned about the rates, and I think pointing out to people that the cost of to our communities of not fully funding CCWD will be greater than the cost of these rate increases. That's something we need to be able to demonstrate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's a fun meeting.
Let me just verbalize something else that came to my mind. If we have just talking about water customers, 13,000 and some change. If you multiply that times 2.2, 2.3 persons per household, then we're providing water to over half of the citizens of this county, aren't we?
Yes.
That doesn't, I don't think that really is a fact that it is emphasized enough. I mean, you have these individual communities like Copperopolis or Arnold or Murphy's. Well, Murphy's got their own, but I think that we ought to stress that we're the not the only game in town, but the most responsible or the most dependent upon.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We definitely serve the majority of the population of the county.
well, have we ever said that? I mean, it's
We merely say we're the largest. Well, not merely, but we say we're the largest water agency.
but I think it would be fairly impactful if you just said, okay, the current population of the county is, what is it, 46, 47, 48,000, and we're serving 38, 36 or so. What is it? I don't have that arithmetic, but that would, in my mind, that would be
Probably
something.
close to 30, I think, is where
Yeah.
we are. It depends on, and we've had a lot of discussions because we do say those things in our planning document. So it's in our urban water management plan. It's in other places, in some of our legislative advocacy. I don't know how much we've talked about it in terms of public outreach. But it also depends on what, how you calculate that number. So just use some, for example, Department of Finance numbers, it's a lower number. I think the number you've thrown out is probably close to where we're at. Especially because it's hard, where it gets really hard to calculate is in the communities that have a high percentage of vacancies or vacation rentals or second homes. But those are still frequently occupied. So we're still serving, that number of people. We're still providing that service to the community. So my only point is just there's a range essentially depending on how you calculate that number, but it's a majority of the community.
Because,
How you calculate it, it's a majority.
because the water faucet is there and all you have to do.
Yeah.
Is turn it on. Yeah.
But 30,000 is 75% of the 40,000 that we talk about. So it's,
The, another thing just came to mind that I don't think people understand it would be a good indicator our rising cost is it'd be nice to have a list of not just our water and sewer treatment facilities, but Spicer, White Pines Lake, Hogan Reservoir, and for instance, the increasing cost of our payments to the Bureau, is it the Bureau or the Corps? Which is
Army Corps. Yeah.
the Corps over the course of the last few years. I mean, it would astound people to know that we are paying $600,000 a year at New Hogan Reservoir.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people recognize that we have that there's other, even the, we should list our assets. I mean, what is our total? What is our total? I mean, don't we have to kind of keep track of our total
Yes.
amount
Yes.
of facilities? What is that amount? 300 million?
No, because it doesn't include the Norfolk assets. Our property schedule doesn't. But I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was,
180?
yeah, somewhere in that area combined,
80,
80.
somewhere around. It's less than 100 million, I think, but yeah.
Because remember,
That's
asset,
100 million. We're gonna spend $8 million on a
You-
pipeline in Jenny Lynn.
you
A
spent
lot of those assets have depreciated over time, so the book value is not the full replacement cost. Replacement cost would be a different question.
maybe that's
Well,
something
that's
to look at.
That's what, because I mean, that, because we need to make them understand, it's not a value. It deteriorates every year.
Right.
We have, replacement value of our current facilities is $300 million. Just the
Replacement value would be more than that, I think.
okay, well, whatever the number is. And then, I mean, so, just like any budget, you have to continue to repair it. We could never, if it breaks, as opposed to repairing it on a plan, and this is what you were talking about earlier. You can't wait for it to fail and pay double. You have to plan it, but I really think we need to put those numbers in front of people. Our total, for lack of better words, assets or facilities value is this.
Mhm.
And we can't let it fail and pay double. We have to plan to keep it operational. And I think people will understand that, that's the right thing to do. But I want those numbers. I want people to understand that the water district isn't just your faucet. The power bill. I mean, I want to hear about the power bill, how much power we use, how we're the largest user of power in this county, if I'm not mistaken.
For public agencies, we're by far the largest. I think the next closest is the county, and they're, I think, roughly a third of what we use in terms of power consumption.
yeah, the county doesn't have any pumps.
I mean, there's a lot of information there. We really kind of have to pick and choose because you can't have a 4-hour meeting. But I mean,
We
I
could
think
if you would like us to.
if you guys can.
But keep in
We
mind,
talk about this stuff all day, so we haven't had a 4-hour.
but keep in mind, your presentation to the customer has to, you can't be up here and expect people to understand you.
Yeah.
Certainly. Understood. And actually, Rebecca and I have already started to brainstorm this morning as to what we want to see in the presentation in each town hall meetings. And then we're all meeting together as a group tomorrow afternoon to lay this presentation out. And just
Well,
kind of,
we've worked on drafts already. We're pretty far ahead in the development of that. we still have some work to do, and it's going to be an iterative process over the next few weeks, where we're gonna refine that to get that message right.
But to your point, we're going to make sure it's understandable.
I have
will
a
keep my
couple of
mouth shut
points I'd
most
like
of the
to.
time.
Go ahead, Director Radman.
Also, on this subject, I would like to see a slide or two on accurate rates, water rates and wastewater rates. We did present that as part of our presentation coming in. Want to make sure that those rates are accurate. We talked earlier in an earlier meeting about, I'm talking about AW, Amador Water, Tuolumne, Utica, UPUD, CPUD. And if we could look at their rates and try and get their schedules for the next 4 or 5 years, that's something I'd like to see. We talked about it earlier, just want to bring it up here again, is that we're talking about what we're going to be presenting. The other thing that I think is important is to compare what our rates are. People always bring up, oh, my neighbor or my friend or my brother lives in Lodi or Elk Grove or Modesto, and they pay, much less. If we could bring up, why that is, that they have the same needs, the same requirements, same regulations from the state and federal government, and they have a lot more people to help pay for those costs, a lot more customers to spread those costs, the economy of scale. If we could just talk about the economy of scale of our little water district here in the hills compared to those, as well as what the rates are for those water districts, wastewater in the valley that have that a better economy of scale. And then I already said for what our actual neighboring districts up here in the foothills, what their situation is as compared to ours. Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm just flipping through here and you make one statement here in this message from the general manager that says, but despite these successful grant efforts, this is in reference to the grants, our cost-effective operations, our costs have increased dramatically due to circumstances beyond our control, especially over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't go into a lot of detail in that short message, but we do have some detail in here on that front. But this isn't gonna, we can't pack all that information in the 218 notice, but we're definitely going to expand on that in our outreach.
Yeah, because, again, Jeff is talking about show me.
Yep, absolutely.
Show me what has increased.
It's not just
permitting and
Well,
licenses and.
Bertha, everything that we do is construction related out there in the field. And I mean, we went to not even be able to get components and parts and electrical. I mean, that's still a problem today.
Yeah.
And the stuff that you're getting, I mean, these bigger, multi, billion-dollar companies are hoarding some of these, electrical components. And there are people out there that just can't get stuff. And so what they can get is 60-70% of what it was 3 years ago. I mean,
your point's well taken. We will provide that detail. I think it would be, it's not good for us to make blanket statements like that without being able to back it up.
Right.
So sure, we will back it up.
Certainly. And just to build upon that, and please, David, correct me if I'm wrong. The Jenny Lind AV transmission line has been on our CIP list for a number of years. I remember in 2013, that was going to be part of our program. And I believe at that point, it was a $2 to $3 million project. What is it now?
I think it was 2018, the outreach said it was a
12 million, yeah.
I think it was 2018. It was that recent.
Yeah.
It was a 3 or $3.5 million project.
You can see the increase on our capital program just because, is what Director Davidson said, a lot of supply shortages, the cost increases, everything that's built into it. And that's something I think we need to include in this outreach, because as we've talked about today, infrastructure is what keeps us going and we have to maintain it. Unfortunately, the cost of maintaining that infrastructure has gone up outside of our control, whether it's the suppliers, whether it's construction, shortages, those type of things. But I think that's important for people to understand.
Obviously, we don't want to get like political. But I mean, without question, the COVID shutdowns caused much of this shortages that we're still dealing with today.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to recover, or industry hasn't recovered from that. But I mean, that's gotta be, and COVID really started the spike in all the equipment costs. Just from lack of material, lack of everything. And that's really where it started 3 years ago.
And unfortunately, even when supply chains are opened up, it doesn't seem that the prices are coming down.
Well, yeah, that's not how it works.
I know, that's what I mean. You think that they would be temporary increases, but they became permanent.
That's really useful feedback, though. I really appreciate that from the board members, because Jeff mentioned we have a team working on this outreach effort, and we're gonna, I think incorporate all that into our outreach materials and presentations and discussions with the public. So,
Nobody's gonna be, not one single person, or maybe there's one crazy person out there, but very unlikely anybody is gonna sit down and say, all right, we get it, bring it on. But I at least want people to understand. They're not gonna be happy. I don't care if they sign the document, if they sign the protest, but I just want them to understand.
Yeah.
And that's all that we can really do is give them all the information they need to understand what we're doing, why.
I think that's exactly what we're after. It's what I finished my statement with was, we're asking for a generational investment in our infrastructure, and we're asking for the understanding from the community. And the frustration is that we're going to hear, because we're going to hear it. It's going to be entirely understandable as well. And so I think that's what, we need to understand that, but that's what we're asking for from the community, is their understanding of why we have to do this.
Okay, if that's all the board comments, how about any online comments, public comments?
This community workshop, Ebbets Pass Fire District, I thought we were going to one of the schools.
I think we are going to relocate that one, and we'll do a bunch of outreach to make sure everybody knows that.
You'll change that?
Well, we'll do outreach to make sure everybody knows if it is relocated, that there's a new location.
Okay, moving on to item 4C.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. This is discussion regarding district grants program update, and this is Damon Wyckoff.
Hey, good afternoon, directors. So I'm here to provide you with a rundown of the district's grant status. And we're going to approach this in the PowerPoint in 3 different general phases. One of them is we're going to start with grant funded projects that are currently either acquired, the grant has been acquired, or we're in construction. We're actually moving forward with construction. And then we're going to follow that up with grants that have been applied for. And then we're going to everyone's favorite topic is the last, and it's grants in history at CCWD. I thought, we can look back on it. Really rough. It's roughly about the last 10 years of where we're at with grants and how we've been. And we also do have, we can discuss about, we can talk about grants that we've tried to get and we were unsuccessful in obtaining also. But really kind of to start off, I think you guys have been talking about this, and throughout this board meeting, and it's really, I just wanted to impress with this first slide here on everybody that you sit at the dais right in front of the mission statement, which is protect, enhance, and develop Calaveras County's water resources and watersheds to provide safe, reliable, cost-effective services to our communities. And this grant program, or the component, which is historically been within the engineering department's wheelhouse, plays a critical role in doing just that. And so the interweb gremlins strip.
Can't help thinking this was all Scott's fault. Messing things up in the beginning. Now we got a virus or something.
In Scott's defense, this doesn't happen when he's here, so. It could be either way.
Thank you for sharing. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. So we talked about our mission statement and really following that up, the overview. You guys have discussed this also, 30,000+ residents served, 13,000 plus water connections, 5,000 plus sewer connections, 6 water systems, 13 wastewater systems through hydropower projects. There's a lot going on, and grants play a critical role in ensuring the success of the.
What about our lakes?
We can add those, yeah. And this is not meant to be exhaustive, but we all looked at each other when you guys were having the discussion earlier, because there are documents that we're working on that are a comprehensive breakdown of all the infrastructure that CCWD has.
I just think we should include the bodies of water that we pull from.
Absolutely. And really kind of from a high level for grants, we talk about the Calaveras watershed, the McCollum watershed, and the Stanislaus. And really from the perspective of the watersheds provide us opportunity to work to try to achieve grant funds, right? So there's these integrated regional water management programs for each of these watersheds that can help us secure money. So there's all kinds of ways that we go about working to secure grant funds. Here's a rundown of where we're at with some of the projects that are currently construction or some grants that have been secured. So the Redwood Tank Replacement Project, Michael, being the proponent of grammar that he is, I want to apologize for the slide because there's tense violations all over this thing. Talking present tense,
I
past
even
tense,
got one.
all
That's
at the
rare.
same time.
That's hard for me.
So my apologies. But really what it boils down to is that we had a $2.8 million project with 2.1 million of that being grant funded. And what this does is replaces redwood tanks with fire resistant material. And this is a hazard mitigation grant program. Some of you most likely know that when there is a disaster declaration, that opens the books through Cal OES that we can request funding through FEMA to mitigate future risk. And that's where this project came from. So this has been a great success.
This picture here, that's actually our old program where we used to grow trees next to the redwood tanks, just in case if we needed to plug them or something.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yes. No defensible space. And so here's just some pictures of that and showing the project in progress. So we see the demoed redwood tank in the image on the left, and then a bolted steel glass line tank on the right. So that project, the redwood tank replacement portion was significantly completed in the spring, the late spring. And we just finished the last project that was tied into that, which was not a redwood tank. It was a welded steel that was past its useful life. So the new tank is up, and now we'll work through the regulatory process to bring it online. So we're starting to see the finish line of that project. This is a grant-funded project through hazard mitigation as well. This is the Hunters Reservoir Raw Pump Station. So Hunters Reservoir CCWD, we have a pump station at the face of the dam. It can be problematic to access in the wintertime. It can be hard to get to. It's dangerous. This project will relocate all the electrical components to the shoreline, which will allow us to safely operate the pump station in poor weather. So we received $280,000 in funding for environmental and design. And then we're moving on to phase 2 of construction, which is $2 million project. So this is moving forward through the FEMA process. West Point second filter. So this project is nearing completion as well. So we put a redundant filter of equal size at the West Point water treatment facility. You can see it hanging in the air right there on a crane. And this improves the reliability of water supply for the community. And in an absolute emergency, we can theoretically flow water through both filters to try to push and double the output should we have to in a fire situation. So this is, yeah, go ahead.
Why is it gonna take so long?
Apologies. Well, so that is how long we have. We have until the fall of 2024 to complete the project.
Okay,
I
but
should
that
have
doesn't
put the
mean we're gonna
completion
take
date
that
on there.
long.
Yeah, right. So we can actually wrap up all of the administrative paperwork by the fall of 24. But we won't take that long. So next project, West Point Wilseyville wastewater consolidation. Severe disadvantaged community, 100% grant funded project, just under $10 million project. So this consolidates 2 wastewater systems. Consolidation, excuse me, is a huge topic in the state water board right now. It's very important. So when you can kind of collect all these little tiny systems and make one larger system and create some uniformity in the treatment process, that's a really positive thing. And that's what this project does. And it also provides us with an opportunity to regionalize and optimize some of our wastewater processes with septic tanks and solids handling as well. And then there's a possibility, as you've all have heard about co-locating biomass next to this facility so that we could take advantage of the heat generated by the biomass facility, and we can use the facility, its need to cool its process by using our treated effluent as evaporative coolant. So that's a phenomenal project. It's moving right along. Critical facility generator replacements project. This is another hazard mitigation, a little over $500,000. So what this project does is it installs generators at 11 sites that CCWD currently doesn't have generators at, mostly wells, wastewater lift stations, and treated water pump stations. So a lot of the smaller, say more remote or less, I wouldn't say less, I guess you could say less used lift stations don't have generator. And so it's like, we've got 5 homes that are on this one site, and we might not have to pump it for 3 days in an emergency, but at some point in time, we're going to have to pump it. This project will install a generator there, put everything on telemetry that we can operate and maintain remotely, and we can go.
I thought we heard last winter that we had generators at everywhere it was needed, but you're telling us no.
That's correct. We have right at 90 generators, but we still have sites. These 11 included, well, actually there's 6 brand new sites, and then the other 5 will get new generators. But yeah, we do have sites that do not have generators.
Most of our facilities do. We're actually very lucky on that front.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought we were happy last winter.
Well,
We are.
we're in better shape than a lot of agencies because the district has made that investment in the past.
Right.
But not 100% of our facilities, and there are some of those generators that need to be replaced.
Another thing to add to the mix is our investment after the PG&E, the PS or whatever the hell it is.
Mhm.
I mean, what was our investment when we were having those shutoffs? Didn't we buy, at that point, buy a bunch of generators and not just, maybe we should, explain the cost of a 5-day, shutoff, because we've incurred that, and it's significant.
Yeah, and we did pull some of those numbers. I remember back in those, we were facing a lot of those shutoffs. Knock on wood, fortunately, they haven't been as bad the last year or two. But yeah, we did make some investments. We replaced the generator at Hunters, and I think that's actually a good story to tell, that how our staff are always looking for the best possible deal and the least costly way to install something, even something as complicated as that.
I mean, I agree that that's a good story to tell, but it's the story that I want to have told is we wouldn't have to do this if PG&E wasn't shutting our power off for 5 days at a time.
Yeah.
We can't run our facilities without power.
Well, and the cost of generators has
Not just the generator.
more
but
than almost doubled. So.
We can't have stored fuel forever. We got the man hours that it takes to go up there. It's the same thing that happened with the recent winter that we had.
Right.
I mean, maybe we could do something together that talks about, when we have those power outages, or flood scenarios, you know, the man hours and the fuel and the labor and all that stuff, this is what it costs. You know, that's something people, they don't think about it. I mean, it's something we need to try to get across, and it's not, water doesn't start at your faucet.
Yep. All right. So this project, we just received notice today to post a 15-day public comment period notice that gives a scope of the project and talks about the environmental assessments and the cultural assessments were completed. So this project is moving forward. It's in process. And then we can talk about some of the more, it's kind of more of a high level approach to some of the more in-depth discussion about Section 219 and WERDA and Copperopolis and the Army Corps. So we do have $2 million allocated and ready to go through Section 219 funding for improvements at the Copper Cove wastewater treatment facility. And we're working to secure the other 11.2 million for this project. And so we have this tertiary filter that needs to be replaced. We have Pond 6 with a dam that needs to be raised. This will dramatically reduce some of the operational burdens that we're experiencing currently, both of those. And then we have an opportunity to optimize the facility overall. And so Mark and his team and Michael have been working closely with the Corps on this project.
Wasn't there an authorization? I mean, I understand we had $2 million of budgeted, but don't we have an authorization for the 13?
Yes.
So why don't we say that?
Well, so, yeah, that's a good point. Yes. Sure.
I mean, as opposed to the, you know, project, it looks to me like we only have 1/5 of that funding, grant funded, but while it's not in the budget, it is expected to be in the budget.
That's true.
It's been written in Congress, correct?
It has, so we have a $13.28 million authorization in that has been, was in WERDA, so it has made it through, that is in law. The good news is, I was going to mention this in my report, but I'll cut to the good news, which is just last week we found out that not only, well, back up just a little bit, but so the 11.2 million that remains in the authorization that hasn't been appropriated yet, that's a big chunk of money for Section 219. It's a very competitive program. Every year, facilities all over the country, not just California, are competing to get at a relatively small pool of money. And so to ask for 11.2 all at one time is very, it's a big ask within the Section 219 program. But one of the frustrations we've had with this project is just how hard it is to implement a big construction project if you're only getting $1 million a year. And we're extremely grateful for the money that we're getting, but you can't award a big construction contract on that. And so the Army Corps actually took the initiative to request that we get the full $11.2 million next year in the federal budget. That request was accepted by Senator Feinstein's office, and she has requested that full amount in next year's budget. And we just found out last week that that request has made it through the Senate Energy and Water Development Committee. And Senator Feinstein is championing that request on our behalf. So there's still many steps in the process to go, but that's a huge step to get through that committee without that dollar amount being reduced. It's still at 11.2 million.
I hope this isn't like the movie Rudy where they change head coaches there.
We're grateful for all the help we can get, regardless of where it comes from.
Yeah.
So, that's a huge win, and MIA deserves a ton of credit. Our legal affairs committee deserves a ton of credit for all the work that goes into that. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We can't start,
But you get my point on.
We'll definitely add it. Yeah, we'll definitely. And then also, so currently in process FEMA or actually FEMA grant funds related to the 2 disaster declarations from the wintertime. Roughly 300 grand for the one that began on New Year's Eve, or right around New Year's Eve, and then about 200 grand for the one that is from February through March. So those are currently what we have. And then I threw AMI in there because there is a grant component to this project. Most likely we won't tap into that component, but it is there. And this is a critically important project, as you all recognized earlier in the conversation.
The rest was a loan. At what interest rate?
Right.
Well, I believe it was 1.87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we need to, add that as well.
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, because that is basically,
So you'll see this number, once we add that 11.2 and some of the other, values go up. So this is really kind of the key slide, total value of active grants. Here we're at 17, without that 11 in there. So would be at 28.
these are active.
That's active. These are in
Are we-
construction and or secured.
Are we confident that we can put that 11.2 in here? I know it's part of a legislative process in Washington DC, and getting the blessing of Feinstein's office is awesome. But I think getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. We haven't got that 11.2. It's nice to put it on this list as
But we do have
potential.
the authorization.
Yeah.
We can,
Right.
I think.
If we gotta word it
creatively
word it
highlight it,
properly.
perhaps.
I mean, things can change. That's not given. The
No,
2 million
they
is
can't
given. The 11 million is still, there's still a couple more steps that we need to follow through. I just like it to be worded properly if we do try and
Yeah,
throw it
I-
on this.
It's
Totally
not gonna
get it.
change.
I think,
Yeah.
I think there's a way that we can highlight both, considerations
Call it
within
what
the
it
same
is.
slide. Yeah.
I
Okay,
mean, an allocation is different than an authorization. Right?
Yes. And then really kind of jumping right into where we're at with applications currently. So these are recently applied for grants. And so these are, we haven't received a determination yet. These projects are in our CIP, but we have applied for grant funding. Right off the get is Arnold Wastewater Treatment Plant Secondary Clarifier, $9 million grant application. So we're at 90% design plan set, pretty much at 100 for this project, but we're waiting word from SRF on whether or not this will be funded. Yes.
How often do we determine what's a DAC? That's the,
This disadvantaged community, Michael,
So
this is not us who
Does
makes that
that
determination.
change?
it depends. Well, I mean, it'll be evaluated every time we apply for a project. Every time we apply for a grant, it's always going to be a huge consideration. But that's a good question. I don't know how often they update those NHI numbers.
Oh, right.
It's gonna be more often. than-
Yeah, I think they do it more often. We'll find out how often they update it.
No, but it doesn't matter if they have to, we can always challenge it. We can go door to door and.
That's correct. Right, yeah.
It's important that we can go do it ourselves.
That's right.
Right. It might just be the sense that we'll double check to find out how often we adjust those numbers. They are always coming up with different tools, different factors that get included into whether it's a DAC or not. We're working on a new tool that the Army Corps, that the federal government is now using. And we're using that to figure out how we can fit our projects within the new framework. So it is a high priority, and I think that's one of the points we wanted to make here is just how there's a lot of infrastructure money out there, but these are really competitive programs, and a lot of it has to do with DAC status. But even within that, these are not a guaranteed. None of these are guaranteed sources of funding, and so that those tools that the agencies are using, and it shifts with the politics. The administration changes, and there's a different focus on something else than there was in the previous administration, and we have to tailor the grant application to the new framework.
Moving on, Bummerville Reservoir Capacity Expansion. So this is a FEMA hazard mitigation grant also. So FEMA put out a bulletin that they would like to see projects that quote unquote move the needle. So this is a water supply project for the West Point community that would more than double, just at the capacity for the Bummerville Reservoir, which can store water from Bear Creek and from the Middle Fork of the McCollum, and provide it and convey it to the West Point Water Treatment Facility. So it's a drought resiliency project. Burson Area Groundwater Recharge Project. So this is one of those projects that is kind of spanning engineering and water resources. There's been a lot of conversation about this grant application between the engineering department and water resources about how to best apply for and best kind of embody the project overall, so we can work to secure the grant funds. But essentially, what the project is groundwater recharge with surface water in order to restore the aquifer, which can provide multiple benefits in other areas through this lower portion of the county.
It's a planning grant.
That's correct. Yes.
Right.
Thanks,
So
Mike.
evaluating
Right.
project opportunities, not an engineering
Yes. Thanks.
design.
Right. And then, so we have the, here we go back to the conversation of the rest of the 11.2, so we can make this change here for this project. And then total value of applied for grants, we're at 25.6 million. So as we discussed, we would see some of this shift from applied for to in process. And it's really, I mean, that information is super helpful for that.
So do we have a number for the grants that came before the active list?
Yeah, right here. Sorry about the yellow there, but the total overall completed grants is 14.9 million.
And that's from how long ago?
So we're right at around 2011, 2012 through really kind of 2021 is where it kind of cuts off at. But yeah, so we have the West Point Clearwells project, West Point distribution system. And I think one thing that we can work to convey within this slide is the value of the projects has also changed over time. It's kind of like the wildfire
If you
slide.
look, that number there is, it's probably a $40 million number, right?
It's kind of like that wildfire slide. What is it? Wildfires before 2019 were this big, and now after that, they're this big, and they encompass all of, I think we can probably come up with a graphic like that that helps to convey that information, because you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, we're looking at projects now generally hovering around 8 million, 9 million, 13 million. Whereas before they would be close to 3, 2.5. It's quite significant.
Okay, back on the last slide, total value of applied for grants. What is our mechanism to make sure that we know of every grant that's available?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually something that, you know, there's different ways to do it. And right now, kind of where we're at is as projects move forward in the process, on a project by project basis, we're looking at every potential source of funding that we can find for each project. And we had a lot of experience and familiarity with the different sources of funding that are out there. One of the things we're working on within our management team is just developing a little bit more of a systematic approach to make sure that we don't miss anything. I don't think that we have. But I think it would be, I think there's probably a way that we could develop
Improve that, or
program
yeah, or
we can improve on that. Yeah, thank you.
because, you know, just like everything else, changing all the time, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah,
Mhm.
I'd go nuts trying to keep up with.
Fortunately, we have a good team.
Yeah, and all of us receive in some way, shape, or form, or some iteration, a kind of a routine email of funding opportunities. And then when we do get together in our grants meeting with water resources, engineering, administrative, management, we all kind of get together and talk about these different things or different opportunities within that group. Everybody's bringing us something a little bit subtly different from what they receive through those routine emails.
So yeah, IRWM will send out funding opportunities. The funding agencies themselves will send out, information. The California Funding Fair is another, happens a couple of times a year that we can participate in. So the agencies, the funding agencies themselves will do outreach to make their programs known. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can make sure we're informed about all those fronts.
The real interesting one is the Air Resources Board's Carl Moyer program. So Carl Moyer will help you take aged heavy equipment off the job site if you're going to operate at more than half a man year. So basically it has to operate about 5 hours a day in order for you to qualify for the grant funding. We've actually looked at that through operations. So there's all kinds of unique, interesting, small grants as well. So it's like, can we replace this backhoe? Well, unfortunately, we don't operate a backhoe 5 hours a day, every 5 days a week. You know what I mean? So but we're always searching.
And
Just-
the
just-
slide is
Just start it and let it run.
Well, yeah, sounds like you're in our meeting with us. Yeah.
All right, well, that's
What
great.
about Pat McGreevy and his group, the forest thinning and stuff?
Yeah,
Are
that's
we-
actually something we probably should add, is those forest management grants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna as well.
Yeah, and so I hope what this demonstrates is that, and I think what for our, not to skip back to the previous agenda item, but I think for providing this information in the context of that context, condensing all of this into, put the information down into one slide and then have this available to show all of the details. But, the grants from 2011 to 2000, closed out grants basically in 2022, the ones that are in progress, the ones that are applied for, the other efforts that we've made that were unsuccessful. We have a list of grants that we applied for that we didn't get. We can condense all of that information just to make sure we're demonstrating how we're always aggressively going after grant funds.
Can we, like this slide presentation, because we're not gonna be able to fit all this into our presentations, but like, can we narrow it down to a sheet of paper,
That's
one
right.
slide, and
Condense that
then refer
information.
them to our website, which has the entire list where they can just, move on and see all the different projects?
Yeah.
I think we need to be able to direct them if they want to get further information to some of these slides like that.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, we can put the condensed version, just the bottom line numbers, into a presentation, but then have a link to have this available on the website. I think that's a good idea.
Right.
How long are these presentations going to take? What are you looking at?
Jeff wanted 4 or 5 hours.
Town hall. Well, I mean,
I realize with the amount of questions
yeah, I mean, I think
that's your
that's a good
unknown.
question. I mean, what's the sweet spot? Is it a 30 to 45 minute, staff presentation? We could be there for hours fielding
Right.
questions, and that's fine. We'll entertain the discussion, but how long exactly the presentation will be, we haven't finalized that yet. But happy
I
to,
would shoot for the 45-minute.
yeah. I think that's probably the ballpark we'll be in. I don't.
Concise, and you want it concise, and you want it, well, of course, clear.
Clear, yeah, but I don't think anybody wants to sit through a 2-hour
No,
PowerPoint
right.
presentation. But at the same time, we don't want to undershoot, so, I think probably in that 45-minute time frame. And then we'll make a lot of time.
But we should be able to direct them for more, if they want more information.
Yeah,
Director
I
Ratterman, you-
agree. I agree with a half hour to 45 minutes on that, and I think most of our time is going to be spent and should be spent on answering direct questions. But if we can consolidate it to a half hour, that'd be awesome. And a lot of the stuff, if we can,
Half hour is a stretch.
yeah, half hour is quick, but half
Yeah.
hour to 45 minutes. If we make it longer than that, based on historically being at these things, they're gonna just drag on, and a lot of the questions are going to be asked about the same things we're presenting anyway. And so we're going to have a lot more opportunity to expound on things during the questions. I think. And I wanted to thank Damon and Michael for bringing these grants forward. I know I've been requesting that, and this is awesome to see. And I think it's perfect timing for our rate study. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you, Damon, for pulling this together. I think we should also just acknowledge Kate Jesus for a lot of work and pulling all this information
And I
together
just
as well.
had highlighted one statement in here. In the recent past, the External Affairs Manager held the responsibility. Moving forward, grants application and management will return to the engineering department.
Yeah, and I think it'll always be a team effort. Engineering is always going to be kind of in the lead on developing the grant applications because they're engineering intensive. But they're always going to be a team effort. There's always going to be finance, operations. You know, every department is going to be involved in pulling these applications together. They are very difficult. There's a lot of work that goes into pulling these applications together.
Okay, so according to our chart, where's Damon? What department are you?
Operations.
Yeah, he's not engineering.
No, but he has been overseeing the engineering department for the last couple of years, so it made sense for this presentation. And operations is a huge part of these grant applications too. So it's a team effort. Yeah.
Just as long as we know where to find you, Damon.
Yeah.
I don't know where to find them. Okay, have we lost anybody who was listening in? Anybody want to public comment on this last agenda item? If not,
We have only CCWD staff.
okay. If you can start on your general manager's report and watch me get a cup of coffee first. I'm dozing off.
You might need something stronger for this. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, why don't I start with good news? And it's been a while since we've had good news from CPPA. But we have some good news from CPPA. At our board meeting last week, we had been told, in fact, a letter went out to all CPPA member agencies. And I think we sent that letter out in May-ish after our previous board meeting. That we were, after seeing CPPA rates double over the last year, 18 months, we were going to have another 10% rate increase go into effect this month. But we got new information. PG&E's, it's a very complicated rate structure and rate formula for CPPA. And we'd have to have Dennis Dickman here to explain the whole thing. And someday maybe we should. But the gist of it is the PG&E portion of the CPPA rate actually went down.
Oh.
And so the current CPPA rate is 20 cents a kilowatt hour. That's up from 9.9 cents about 18 months ago. We were anticipating and we budgeted for it to go up to 22 cents for this year. The rate went down, the CPPA rate went down slightly. The CPPA board decided not to lower the rate so that we could rebuild our rate stabilization fund. We used some of that rate stabilization fund last year to soften the transition to these higher rates. And so the CPPA rate will stay at 20 cents this coming year, which will actually help CPPA rebuild that reserve. But it's not going up to 22, which is good news. We'll see what happens in the future. I expect in general, the trend is those rates will continue to increase over time. But at least for this year, that was a little bit of a break.
Are you on that board?
I am, as a representative of CCWD.
And you couldn't get them to lower our rates. So.
I am reluctant to admit that I have voted for the rate increases. And it's not because anybody wants rate increases, but it's the same decision we have to make here as a board, is to cover the cost, cover CPPA's costs. We have to collect those rates from CPPA
reluctantly?
members. Reluctantly, I have voted yes for those rate increases, although I enthusiastically voted not to increase rates last week. In fact, I might have even made the motion. So that, yes, that was good news. The Finance Committee met last week. We had a lot going on in the Finance Committee. There was a lot of really good discussion, and then some discussion of agenda items that are forthcoming. So a lot of really good work in the Finance Committee. External Relations also met last week. And obviously the main topic of discussion these days is the public outreach effort for Prop 218, but there's other good work going on there as well. Legal Affairs will meet next week. And we also have EPOC next week. They're back from their month off. We'll have a couple of staff representatives available for the EPOC meeting, and I've already given Laura the heads up that we're prepared to give a detailed discussion of our rates if they want. I don't know if they want us
Who's going to go there?
I think Jeff and Kelly Richards hopefully will both be available for that. And so that we can, I don't know if they want to make us their featured speaker of the meeting, but I did give her the heads up that we'll be prepared to talk about that in detail. If people want to have that discussion there. It's such a great group to do outreach with. We went last week to Wallace to meet with the Wallace Community Services District. It was great. Really great group of people. They're still, even though we took over the water and wastewater facilities and operations 10, 12 years ago, the Wallace CSD is still alive and well and doing other things. And they wanted an update from us on the status of the assessment district, the funds that were collected through the assessment district, and the projects that were to be completed with those funds. So Damon and Mark and myself and Director Davidson were there. I think it was a really positive meeting. I think shared a lot of good information, answered all their questions. We have some follow-up information that we're providing them with. And then we also had a good discussion about the proposed rate increase that was surprisingly well received there. In fact, one of their directors, even before we started talking about what our rate increase was, raised his hand and said, you guys your rates are too low. You're not collecting enough money, because they know what it takes to run a water and wastewater system. And that was not always, it was a bit of a surprise to hear that, but it was also really appreciated that understanding, because then even when we did explain the magnitude of this rate increase, there was just a lot of general understanding. Nobody's happy about it, but there was a lot of understanding in the room. One person's comment was, well, my PG&E rate is tripled, so this isn't that bad. I know we're not always going to see that response, but I do think it is a sign of just a general understanding from the public about cost increases that people are seeing everywhere. So I expect we'll still encounter our share of frustration over these proposed rates, but I also hope that we'll still encounter a lot of that understanding as well. Let's see, Aqua board meeting this week, and I already talked about our $11.2 million funding request moving through the Senate. So the last thing I have is our external affairs manager, John Osborne, is no longer with CCWD. He's moved on, and so we're grateful for the work that he did for us, and we wish him all the best in the future. And that is all I have.
Okay, any questions for Michael? All right, board reports. Can we start with you, Bertha?
Okay. I don't really have to go over the successful car show again at White Pines Park, do I? Everybody knows how successful it was and how beautiful White Pines Park is. Okay. I got a copy of, and I'm sure everybody did, got a copy of the grand jury report. Yeah, and in going through it, there were just a couple of things that I thought were interesting, and that's one statement about Siskiyou County having 1.5 to 2 million gallons of unpaid water per day. And this Siskiyou,
What grade are you reporting?
well, they're just referencing different
Oh.
things because they made the
Oh.
statement, this may also be happening here in Calaveras County and without any form of metering.
Is that within, because they spend a lot of time talking about cannabis
Uh-huh.
enforcement,
Uh-huh.
is that in the
Yeah.
context of, oh, okay, so
Yeah.
there may be water theft in up
Uh-huh.
there,
Uh-huh.
you know?
So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And then the other statement that I thought was great is, oh, this is on fuel breaks. You know, we were talking about how great it was that we have a fuel break. They are fuel breaks that are no longer maintained after 5 years are no longer considered fuel breaks. So I haven't been able to find out where that is, or, you know, are they intending to do it again or whatever? The development and maintenance of fuel breaks in strategic locations would help with the control of wildfires within the county, and this we know. So that's a critical issue. Last night I did, after Michael and I both gave blood yesterday, and after that, I went to a Sierra Hope meeting, and then after that, I went to the Utica meeting, because it was right there by Sierra Hope. And so
Yeah.
I had never met Alvin Brolio, so I told him I'd come and see him. So that was great. And Joel, of course, made his presentation. And one of the things that they're talking about, or one of the things that I'm afraid that they're victims of, is a lot of burglary out there in there. And so I just want to make sure we have cameras all over, and
We do in some locations, not everywhere. They're expensive. And so we've looked at different security solutions and we're trying to do it as cost effectively as possible. But I know that's an issue they've had for a long time.
because he says they have had 5 or 6 incidences within the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad. So it was nice. That was a nice meeting at Utica last night. I brought a agenda if anybody wants to take a look at it. Not much in there. Pretty. Okay, that's it.
Jeff, do you have anything?
No, I'm sort of depressed that Bertha has such a way better social life than I do.
Wait, you're surprised by that?
Yeah. No, it was great going down to meet those people down in Wallace. I thought, you know, they got a good group together there.
Really good group.
I met one of the guys recently from that meeting, and they have nothing but appreciation. The majority of the people down there for the work that staff's doing. So it was, I mean, he was real positive, and he apologized for the one outlier. but and I told him, hey, that's, you know, we get that all the time, and
Yeah.
it was great to have that opportunity for to share with them what we've been doing, and they seem to be very appreciative. So.
Yeah, we hope to even win that one over, but Damon and his team deserve all the credit for that relationship because they've been super responsive and you know, doing a great job of maintaining those facilities.
Yeah, they don't want it back.
No, they don't want it back.
Nobody's mad because we took them over, huh?
No, they're not mad about that.
Okay, Director Ratterman, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Director Thomas. I'm currently at the Aqua JPIA office in Roseville. I have a couple meetings here today, the liability committee meeting this morning, and then this afternoon is the employee benefit program meeting. And then in the morning at 8 a.m., we have our executive committee meeting. And I think we have, and then we got a program for appreciation of the executive committee. Not quite sure what that's gonna entail. Next week, Mountain Counties is meeting in El Dorado Hills. We have a reception in El Dorado Hills. Please check out the website. I think it's at a place called 36 Candles at about 5 PM. All
think
of
it's-
you are,
I think it's 36 handles.
36 Handles. Right. I'm misreading my notes here. Yeah, it's a
36
restaurant.
Candles is the Hallmark store next door to 36 Handles.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that. And then that's on Thursday evening, August 3rd, and then on a Friday morning, August 4th at 9 AM, Mountain County's in the same area, El Dorado. Well, at the El Dorado County Water Agency right down the road, we're having our just a regular meeting. And that's all I have to report at this time. Thank you.
Okay, the only thing that I want to point out to anybody who is interested in the Copperopolis Community Plan, there's another meeting tomorrow evening at the Armory, starting at 6 PM to talk about the long dormant Copperopolis Community Plan that
Remember it well.
you remember it well. You know, so do I. Much more than I want to remember, but anyway, my great appreciation for Mr. Elliott for bringing for both Elliott and our supervisor under Amanda Follendorf. They're trying their best to get Copperopolis kind of included in the general plan, which it should have been a long time ago. So that's all I have to report.
Nobody talked about the NCPA dinner tonight.
It's gonna happen, I think, right?
That's gonna happen.
Jeff might go to and improve his social content.
Yeah.
There you
I feel
go.
bad,
Wallace, and then Murphy's. Wow, that'd be
Yeah.
getting really expounding your horizons, Jeff.
But really, Wallace is one of the gems of the county. Yeah.
It is. It's great.
All right. Seems like to me that the next thing is announcement of the next board meetings. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, August 9th, regular board meeting at 1 o'clock. And then the following that on August 23rd at 1 o'clock, the regular board meeting in this location. Now we're going to be, this concludes this portion of the meeting, and we're going into closed session, which is a conference with legal counsel and anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to the subdivision D2 of the government code, 2 potential cases. So we'll be coming back to report on any reportable outcome. So
Russ, we haven't been asking for public comment on most of these agendized items, but we should probably ask for one here if or is there no public online or in the building?
No
We
public.
can still ask for public comment.
There's public comment.
Okay, do you have any public comment about this closed session item? Okay, thank you for that reminder.
Certainly.
Okay, 5-minute
I would
break.
really like to get out of here by 3:30.
Where are you going? Person?